In this video, I'm going to break down step by step everything that you need to know to drop 20 pounds over the next 90 days. So many people think that the holidays are a death sentence because you've got eggnog and cookies and drinks and all the chaos and all the stress that comes with the holidays. But what if I told you that it didn't have to be that way? Well, in this video, like I said, I'm going to break down everything you need to know: training, nutrition, stress management, and a little bit of mindset so that you can navigate not just these holidays, but future holidays. Because once you learn how to sail through choppy seas, that's when you become the skilled sailor. But if every time the holidays come, you gain the weight back, well, you're going to be in that yo-yo cycle. So watch this video all the way through to understand how to break through that cycle and maintain your progress and come into January of 2026 in the best shape of your life potentially. So losing weight during the holidays, here's our game plan. And so here's the things that we're going to cover. First thing is going to be the numbers that you got to get in place. And anytime you're trying to calculate, all right, where am I trying to get to? You want to make sure that you're looking at your starting point and having that necessary data. When Han goes to make the jump to light speed, the Falcon is calculating all of that data to know where are we so that we know how to get to where we want to get to. So the 5 things that I recommend getting in place is going to be progress photos, getting some measurements around areas around your body. Maybe it's your waist, maybe it's your belly, maybe it's your chest, your arms. Those are going to show fat loss in different areas that maybe the scale doesn't show during plateaus. Obviously, you want to weigh yourself. I would also recommend getting in some test markers. How many push-ups can you do? How long can you hold a plank? How long can you run a mile if you're into the more endurance side of things? And so you're going to have scale measurements, photos, performance in exercises, then also qualitatively how you feel. And a really good way to measure this is actually going to be through a blood panel or DEXA scan to get a little bit more of internally what's going on. I love DEXA scans because it gives you things like your visceral fat. It tells you how much muscle you have per different parts of your body, tells you your body fat percentage. And so many people think that, they only have 5 to 10 pounds to lose. But when they get the data in front of them, they see, oh, wow, I'm actually 30% body fat, which is in one way a good thing because that means you got a long runway to build these habits and completely transform your life, which is obviously what we want to do. In these next 90 days, we're going to break that down in this video. So getting that data is going to be absolutely massive. But the first thing after you get that initial data, it's October 2nd. So get that data now or tomorrow, and then you'll have 90 days until January 1st. First thing we got to get into our focus is going to be nutrition. You cannot out-train a bad diet. You're not going to just be able to eat whatever you want and be an indulgent, rabid rancor during this time. So you do got to make sure that you've got some key things in place. And so just to kind of show you an example here, John, starting at October 2024, so last year, was clocking in around, what do we got here? October 4th, he was 256. And so by the time we got to December 18th, he was 233. So it's about 23 pounds. He ended up getting a new scale for Christmas and realized that it was off. And then we continue to lose weight beyond there. But that's just to show you that this is totally possible. And the big things that John was looking at was obviously his nutrition. And so when you're tracking, you want to make sure that calories is the number one thing that you're looking at. You're going to want to track that, and you're going to aim for about a 500 to 750 calorie deficit. And now a lot of people run into issues with calorie tracking. They say it doesn't work, or they say they're eating 1,200 calories and that they're starving and they're in starvation mode. But I find this study really interesting because it kind of just highlights the discrepancy between what is tracked or what you think you're eating versus what is actually being consumed. And what this actually found here is that people with obesity underreported by a mean of 477 calories. People classified as overweight, 144. So that's going to be average, and it's going to be a little bit higher, going to be a little bit lower. But a lot of times where I see a lot of people struggle is they're not tracking things like oils, they're not tracking snacks. They're basically just kind of eyeballing and guessing, or they're not tracking everything. And so you definitely want to work on developing the skill of tracking everything that you have. And a really simple, easy way to do that, I actually find, is doing it on desktop. Because I can come into here and let's say I want to add a snack. Well, I can go in and add a snack and just type in a bar. I don't know what bar I would be searching, but whatever that brand is, I can then go and click that in and have that show up. But one of the actual sneaky things that you can do as well is just plan what you're going to have the day prior. create that structure to create the freedom for dinner. So if I was going to say, okay, I'm going to have my smoothie recipe, so my green smoothie for breakfast, and then I know for lunch, I'm going to go out to Chipotle and have my Chipotle meal. Boom. All right, cool. Now I know what to work with for dinner. And I've created that structure so that dinner's given me about 1,200 calories. And I still have a little bit of protein to get and work towards. But now with that structure, you create the freedom. And that's going to be the way during the holidays that you really want to set yourself up for success. A lot of people have this need for novelty or the constant sweet treats or the weekly cheat meal. If you're trying to lose weight, you got to take a little bit of time away from the constantly cheating, because if you're overweight to a degree, you have been cheating. And so we got to stop, this need for novelty, because that need for novelty really makes it hard for you to get into a good routine. Success on the nutrition side of things is really simple. And sometimes it's boring, but with the holidays, you're going to get plenty of that fun, that new novel, that new flavor, those sweet treats. But you got to make sure that you create that structure on the other side. If 80% of the time you're creating the structure and hitting your numbers and you're doing simple, repeatable meals, it's going to make it so much easier. And if you're looking for some examples, I got a video on my channel that is a Costco shopping list with examples of five ingredients or less recipes that you can check out. So that's going to be something that, I would recommend doing. And again, you just watch me track. It took me less than a minute to click that. And so you're not going to have to spend a ton of time tracking when you do it from desktop. And so protein, what I would do there is set that target for, the range is going to be 0.7 to 1.2 grams per body weight. If you're, let's say, in the 300-pound range, I would set it as your goal weight and then try to aim for something in between 180 to 200 grams of protein. The higher you can go, the better. But if I'm working with someone and they're really struggling to get that, or they're having digestive issues, we're going to pull it down lower to something that they can actually build towards and start to see some success. And then as they learn, they start to ramp it up. But 0.7 of 300 pounds is going to be 210. Right. So that might be a little bit hard. If you do 1 gram per pound of body weight and you're 300 pounds, that obviously isn't going to work. Right. And so obviously not everyone's 300 pounds, but let's say it's 250. Let's say it's 220. That's where the 0.7 times or to 1.2 of your goal weight is much more doable. So let's say your goal weight's 200 pounds. For a lot of guys I work with, they haven't hit 200 pounds since high school or college. And so setting their protein at 0.9 of 200 pounds, that's 180. It's much easier to do, but it's also going to be absolutely transformational in helping you manage hunger hormones, build muscle, and really stay full in this period when you're going to be in a calorie deficit. And so that's going to be another thing that I would keep in mind. And then a couple other proxies that I'm really big on is fiber. Fiber is going to help so much with digestion. You're going to find that on the skins of things like fruit. Raspberries are a great example of that. You're going to find that on the skins of beans, right? So edamame, black beans, pinto beans, those are going to have a good amount of fiber. You're also going to find that in different vegetables. So think stocky vegetables that you peel, like a asparagus or a broccoli. Those are going to be great sources as well. And so fiber, really what that's a proxy for is whole foods, foods that came from the earth, fruits and vegetables, which most people do not get enough of. But it's also going to help a ton with digestion, nutrient absorption, and it's going to allow you to have good bowel movements. That in conjunction with enough water, I like to aim for 100 ounces a day minimum. And then you can either say, okay, am I having 100 ounces? That's more of a quantitative number, or qualitatively, if you got anything less or anything more than just a light yellow in your pee, you're dehydrated. So if you're seeing a bunch of yellow, you're dehydrated. If you're seeing some yellow, you're dehydrated. If you're seeing just a hint of it, you're okay. But really, you want to have it clear, because that's a sign of really good hydration. And what that does as well, so often it's just snacking is happening in boredom. Snacking happens because you're bored, you got nothing else to do. But if you just had an 8-ounce water, you'd be like, oh, I'm actually not that hungry. I'm just bored. And so that's a really good proxy. Fiber is a really good proxy for whole foods, nutrient dense foods. And then protein is going to help you stay full. So those are the big ones I would look at. You can look at fat and carbs. I've got videos on that on the channel. But if you're trying to just focus on the essentials, I would say that those are the essentials. So that takes us to These four main things to focus on. And now it's kind of what I was talking about earlier, but variety is the spice of life. And when it comes to nutrition, the more repeatable you can make it, the easier it's going to be for you to put the food noise in the back of your head, because it's gone to a point of unconscious competence. And a really cool framework to think through this is there's unconscious incompetence. You don't realize perhaps that having a 2 liter of Coke every single day is causing you to gain weight. It's raising your blood sugar levels, right? So that's unconscious incompetence. You're not aware that it is hindering your progress. Then there is conscious incompetence. You're aware that you shouldn't have the entire box of pizza, but you do it anyway because you're like, the pizza's so good. I gotta have the pizza, right? That's where it's now a tab that's open in your brain, and it's something that you're thinking about. And that's when you start to develop also this congruency. A lot of stress is a lack of alignment of who you say you are or what you say you're going to do, and then the actions being different. At least for me and a lot of the clients I work with, when they start saying they're going to do something and then they do it, so much of that anxiety goes away because they're being congruent with their word. And like being integrous and honorable is amazingly easy on the brain because you're not, in a way, lying, especially lying to yourself. But then we get into conscious competence. Now, conscious competence means you got to be like, think about it. If I'm trying to drive for the first time, think back to when you're driving for the first time, you were trying to merge onto the freeway and not crash. That took so much mental bandwidth. And this is where so much overwhelm happens, because people are trying to eat healthy, work out, track their numbers, and all of these things can get really overwhelming if you're having to consciously think about everything. And with nutrition, the reason why I'm such a big fan of making it simple and making it repeatable is because eventually you can move it over to the unconscious competence. I just don't even need to think about it. I have the same protein shake every single morning. It's spinach, banana, protein powder, and almond milk. I have it probably 90% of mornings. I don't need to think about it. I've got 2 or 3 meals that I'll make for lunch: ready-made rice, shredded chicken, and I put some soyaki sauce on it. Like, I don't want to think about it a ton, so that I can free myself up to go and have an enjoyable dinner, or not need to think about what am I going to make for lunch, because I already know I've got 2 or 3 plays that I run. And so variety is the spice of life. If you have novelty and variety every single meal, that creates a whole lot more time, a whole lot more cleanup, a whole lot more chaos. And it makes it also harder to track. You saw me just go and click those specific meals. I can do that because those are recipes that I've made, and those are recipes that I repeat over and over. So it doesn't need to be an amazing 5-star Michelin or this super indulgent meal every single time. That is what makes those moments special, is when it is the spice of life. So now what we've got next is the exercise side of things. So big 3 things I would be looking at here: steps, home workouts. You can totally go to the gym if you're someone that's more advanced, or you got a gym and you're just in that routine. By all means, go to the gym. If you go over to my Fit for the Republic channel and you're just looking for stuff to do, I can't tell you how many thousands, probably tens of thousands of people that have gone through and done these. There are body weight workouts you can do from home. There are dumbbell workouts you can do. There are kettlebell workouts you can do. They're all 10 to 40 minutes. The commando ones are the new ones that are a little bit more advanced and intense, but 5-minute warm up, 5-minute cool down. If you want to do that, 10-minute body weight workouts, everybody has time for that. And this is where honestly, I would lean towards indexing with your workouts, simply because you're trying to solve for probably a time constraint. You're probably trying to solve for, something that builds momentum. I've seen so many men lose fat to the tune of 20, 30, 40 pounds in a few months, doing 10 to 25-minute workouts from home, hitting their nutrition targets. And then the third one that I'm going to share here is just walking. So many people gained weight during the pandemic because they stopped moving. And so if you can get in the habit of getting your steps in, 8 to 10,000 steps a day, that's going to make it so much easier for you to put yourself in a calorie deficit. The number one thing that you can ramp up is your steps without having to actually worry about feeling sore or recovering or getting sweaty and changing. And the reason why I bring that up and want to double click on that, when you look at total daily energy expenditure, you have exercise activity You have thermic effect of food. You have non-exercise activity, which is your walking, me moving my hands, right? This is all stuff that isn't exercising, but it's not me just laying on the couch. And then you have your basal metabolic rate. That's just what your body needs to run and keep the lights on. Like you're always burning calories, even if you're laying on the couch. You can only work out for so long. And so if you're trying to out train your diet or out train, these 20 pounds you're trying to lose, you're going to really struggle to do that because you only have so many hours in the day. We're not 23-year-old college kids, or we're not professional athletes that can commit that amount of time. And so where you can find more time is through walking. Now I can hear you already. Oh, but Paul, it's cold where I'm at. What am I supposed to do when it's raining or it's snowing? That, my friend, my wild Wookie, that is where we employ your Revo or whatever brands are up on Amazon right now that you could utilize. And so what I want you to do is get one of these puppies for $99 and go for a walk at your desk. This is the easiest way to get steps in. If you're at your desk or you're watching a TV show or you're, calling a friend, just go and pop on this and you're going to be able to get steps in a side. It's the best $99 to $150 you will ever spend. They're all pretty much the same. They're just made by different Chinese brands with different funky names. You don't need to get the big Peloton one, but I've got this yellow Urivo right here. I think it's 69. They got a fashion one if you want a green one, but at the end of the day, it's all really the same. And this is going to be an absolute game changer for you getting more steps in during the holidays, during the winter when you don't have maybe the weather that you want to get outside with. And here's the thing too, like if this truly is a goal and it's drizzling, throw on a coat, right? If your goals are so easily derailed because there's a little bit of rain outside, how bad do you really want it, right? Now, again, I'm not saying this to the people in Buffalo or Chicago where it's snowing and minus 50. If it's minus 50, do not go outside. Get a freaking walking pad and walk inside and do home workouts inside, training as a trooper. I couldn't make this easier for you. You just got to do it, right? That's the thing at the end of the day. You got to do it. And so what we're doing is going over everything you got to do. Steps, 8 to 10,000 steps, home workouts. These are 10, 20 minutes that you could do. You could literally work out less than 2 hours a week and see results there. And then I also, if you are more of a gym rat, you can train like different characters here. So we got Darth Gainer, Captain Rex programs that walk through everything that you need to do on the programming and side. Let's see here. Yeah. Anyway, go there and you'll be able to find it. So that's the workout side of things. So now we've covered exercise, we've covered nutrition, and now one last kind of mindset thing on the workout side of things. Don't get caught up in the, oh my gosh, I don't have 60 minutes, so I can't work out. Or, oh my gosh, I can't get in what I was planning on getting in. I can't work out. It's an all or nothing mindset. It's a belief in perfection. And really at the end of the day, it's probably one of the biggest things that I see keep people from seeing the results that they want to, because what you're trying to optimize for with consistency isn't perfection, it's momentum. Consistent momentum, not consistent looking perfect every single time. If you try and be consistent with 60-minute workouts every single day over the next 90 days, I can promise you something will come up. Your kids will poop their pants. Your boss will get mad at you and want you to do something late overnight. You're not going to have a perfect runway. And so you got to say, I've been dealt this hand. How do I still win with this hand? And that's by doing a 5, 10, 15-minute workout and allowing that to be the little bit of momentum that you keep doing. Maybe you don't get in the workout because you're feeling absolutely burnt out. Okay, cool. Go for a walk and do something that doesn't burn you out. Maybe do a little bit of yoga, a little bit of stretching, but optimize for momentum. And if you string together 4 or 5 days in a row, then you start to string together 2-3 weeks in a row. Then you start to string together 2-3 months in a row. Now you've got momentum. Now it's just how you operate. Now it's unconscious competence. But if you're going in there and thinking, oh man, I don't have 60 minutes, I can't get a good workout in, you're cooked. You're not going to be able to be perfect. That time is past. So you got to be able to say, all right, here's the hand that I'm dealt. Here's what I can do. And then go and do that and say, sweet, I got 10 minutes. I'm going to knock out a 10-minute workout and then carry on with the rest of your day. Maybe the next day you get a 60-minute workout in. That's awesome. But your week's going to look like 10, 60, 40, 20, 10, 60. And that's going to be momentum because every day you're showing up. The heaviest weight you'll ever lift is the door. And that might be metaphorically if you're going into the garage or working out from home, but the door of the gym is the heaviest weight you'll ever lift. So next we move into recovery. This is one that I'm really big on. I'm not going to try and convince you of it because you'll either believe me or you won't. And there's going to be any number of studies that you can go and find. Just chat GPT if meditation is good for you. It has been one of the biggest things that has helped transform my life and helping slow me down, give me clarity on what is really important. Here's a really cool exercise that you can do. One of my mentors actually gave me this. He was like, dude, if you can't meditate for an hour, or if you can't meditate for 10 minutes, you need to meditate for an hour. And I was like, that makes no sense. You're an idiot. And then as I started to work with him longer, and as I started to have a little bit more awareness, what it essentially means is that if you can't make time for yourself, you need to do something to get really clear on how much time you're wasting on things that aren't important to you, right? Like if you were to say, okay, I need to meditate for an hour, then that means that you've got to go and take inventory of all the time I'm spending on social media, all the time I'm spending watching TV, all the time that I'm spending hitting the snooze button, all the time that I'm spending with people that I actually don't like. And if you go and clear that out, you're actually going to find so much more time. And so what meditation does, there's many things that meditation does, but one of the big things that it does for me is it helps me slow down and get really clear on what is important to me and what I'm going to be intentional about. One of the best meditations you can do is just a intention meditation where you say, all right, here's how I want to show up for the day. And when you get really clear on the 3 things you want to accomplish, and then you go and visualize that, and then you meditate on the day and you say, what am I grateful for? And what am I grateful for that happened today? Now you start to focus your mind. Your focus determines your reality, as Master Qui-Gon says, on what it is you want to accomplish, on what it is that you're grateful for, and what it is that made today amazing. And guess what? When you focus on that, that's what you're going to find more of, right? And that's not even to talk about how much meditation helps with nervous system balancing. If you're someone that isn't that constant flight or fight, constantly stressed out, meditation is going to help you down regulate your vagus nerve and get yourself into a much more relaxed state so that when chaos and stress of the holidays hits you, you're able to have a little bit of buffer in that prefrontal cortex to be able to say, I could react to this like a 12-year-old girl, or I could take 1/10 of a second to just pause and respond. That's the power of meditation. Because here's the thing, if you react like a 12-year-old girl and go on this big mental spiral, next thing you know, 2 hours later, you've put down 4,000 calories of food that's meant to help relax you, but that's not in line with your goals. So just having that little bit of a moment to be like, I'm feeling this emotion, but how do I cut off the meaning of the specific event? I'll give you guys another way to think about this. Things happen. Neutral events happen. We attach meaning to them. You walk into a Thanksgiving dinner and your uncle says, man, you're looking a little skinny. Let's get some meat on your bones. Uncle Ned said something. The end. Now you're the one that gets to attach the meaning and the story and all of the emotion that happens to that, right? That's, again, the power of meditation. You get to then go, come back to your breath, come back to the present moment, be like, yeah, Uncle Ned, I'm working out, doing my thing. Wish you the best. And just leave him in the corner to go have this 7th slice of pumpkin pie. Now, where are we at? Sleep. Pulled up this study because it's one of my favorite studies to look at here. 2022 study, I believe. I'll pull it up in a second. But what they did is that they found people that slept 5.5 hours compared to the usual 8.5 hours over a 3-week period increased their energy intake from 1,178 to 2,500 calories, and their weight jumped 6.5 to 22.5 kg. Sleep deprivation is one of the best things you can do for yourself if you want to have no emotional regulation, poor hormonal balance, elevated cortisol, and the inability to manage your hunger hormones, right? So inversely, if you want to have more motivation to work out, if you want to recover from your workouts, if you don't want to feel stressed out, if you don't want to have raging hunger signals sent to your brain every 10 seconds, get some sleep, right? And get into a good sleep cycle. Now, here's the thing. You're not always going to get good sleep. I got a kid. He might wake up in the middle of the night. My wife's pregnant. I might have to, do something that keeps me up late, and I might not get the sleep that I want to. That's when you got to say, okay, I didn't get good sleep. What can I do to manage recovery the next day? Right? That might be changing your mealtime strategy. That might be doing something that's low intensity on your workout side of things. But sleep is the number one tool in this entire video that if you do not get in place, and it's like, I know I said nutrition was one, but like sleep, I would say honestly goes in front of nutrition, because you can't have good nutrition if you are constantly getting hunger signals and constantly low on energy, and your brain just feels like it's walking through glass that started the night before. The binge eating that you're having at 3 p.m. because you're just so tired and so stressed out started with the 4 hours of sleep the night before, right? And again, I totally get you might have a 3-month-old that's keeping you up. That means that you got to be even more vigilant around the other areas of your life and control the other areas of your life that you can control, because you can't control a screaming baby. And to that point, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but off days, take an off day, right? You don't have to work out 7 days a week. You don't have to go balls to the wall every single day over the next 90 days. Part of a productive day is rest. You can't shoot a arrow forward without pulling the bow back, right? Don't make me go metaphor on you. Like, there's so many to this. And that's ultimately what leads to burnout, is you get set up with a really rigid approach, and you go October 1st, October 2nd, October 15th, and then all of a sudden life punches you right in the nuts and you're like, man, I can't maintain this. I'm burnt out. You crash and burn. And then you're stuck picking up the pieces 2 weeks later because you've lost all your momentum. That's why I said consistent momentum is the thing to solve for. That might mean taking a rest day and going on a walk. Because if you burn out, you're not going to make it the 90 days. You're not going to make it to where you want to get to. And so you got to be able to say, hey, I'm recognizing signs of burnout. I'm not getting good sleep. My skin's breaking out. My libido's down, which could be contributed to from many different things. But like there's many different ways to kind of look and see, like, man, am I about to burn out? And if you are, pull back training intensity, make some adjustments to the diet. That's how you're going to be able to be successful long term. And so now we'll kind of wrap this up on the mindset side of things. Honestly, I could spend another hour talking about mindset, because that literally is the number one thing that is keeping people from getting the results that they want. Because at the end of the day, like, this is a YouTube video. There's, I think, 1 billion YouTube videos uploaded every single day. ChatGPT has been around for 3 years. Like, you don't need more information. You need to think about the information that you have differently. And you need to think about the mindset beliefs and the values that you currently hold, and what are the limiting beliefs that are keeping you from actually getting where you want to get to. Fear of failure is probably 70% of the reason why guys that I talk to and work with struggle to hit their goals. They're afraid that if they miss a meal, it's a sign that they're a failure, and that being healthy just isn't in the cards for them, right? That's not true. If there's someone your age with your health conditions, with 3 kids, that has done it before, it is possible. And I can promise you there are millions of people that have done it in your exact same shoes with worse cards than that you have been dealt. Now, the other one that I see a lot of times is fear of success. I was actually talking with a client about this one yesterday. He was 10 pounds down in the first month, and he was like, man, this is working. And what we essentially got to is, he was like, man, I don't know if I want to keep holding this standard, because it's going to mean that if I lose this weight, then in order to keep this weight off, I got to keep doing everything that I've been doing. And what people will do is they'll actually sabotage themselves. A really good example of this tangentially is, a lot of people don't want to get promoted because it means more responsibility. It means more expectations. And that's something that I struggled with a lot when I worked at Amazon. I wanted to stay in my individual contributor role, and I didn't really want to get promoted. I was like, oh, I could just stay here. And when at 27, sure, I could do that. But eventually I would have been chewed out and spit out. And if you're not growing, you're dying. And the thing is, you grow in your capacity to handle stress with weightlifting, just like you grow in your capacity to handle stress from a teenager to a 30-year-old parent, right? And so as you get better with nutrition tracking, or as you get into more of a routine working out, that fear of success and the standard that you're going to hold actually isn't that hard. It's pretty easy for me to work out and eat healthy because that's my identity and that's who I am. It would be so hard for me to go out of alignment with how I see myself. And I think that's the place that everyone should want to get to is I see myself as someone that prioritizes my health. So I take the actions to prioritize my health. Holidays, this is kind of one that I meant to talk about earlier. Holidays are days. It's not hollow months, it's not hollow weeks. And in all of this process, just kind of think, okay, I got Thanksgiving, maybe a day or two for that. I got Christmas Eve and Christmas, day or two for that. New Year's Eve, New Year's, day or two for that. I got Halloween if you are someone that needs to have Reese's peanut butter cups. Like that right there, 7 days. Could there be a couple other days, maybe a Friendsgiving, maybe a weekend away? Sure. But like, okay, now that's 10 days out of 90. That's still 88% that you can be on track. Set up your pillars. These are the days that I'm going to intentionally indulge and not feel bad about it because I created the structure to be on track on the previous days. And so that's, again, I said I wanted to finish up with mindset. I'll just finish on these two. All or nothing. If you have a bad day or you have a 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 calorie Thanksgiving, awesome. Enjoy it. Next day, get back on the path that you've been on, get back on track. And my favorite days to work out are after indulgent days because my carbs have been absolutely loaded. My glycogen's through the roof. I'm well rested. And those are the best workouts we're going to have PRs. And then last thing I'll just say in all this as well is just belief it's possible, right? Belief that what you're trying to do, right? 20 pounds might be part of the process. Maybe you want to lose 50, maybe you want to lose 100, but you got to believe that it's possible. And it is 100% possible. Like I'm just telling you now, it's very doable. I'm not here to say that it's like the easiest thing on the earth, but it's pretty simple. And once you start to focus on the basics and do everything that I talk about, not just in this video, but in other videos and the stuff that I work on with my clients, like there's a reason why we've got in this playlist over here, just like person after person after person after person after person after person after person that's dropped 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. It's the process is simple. We like to make it really fun and gamified and kind of Star Wars themed, very Star Wars themed, actually, transparently. But like if you are looking for some inspiration, go on to here and be like, which one of these people do I identify with? Okay, Eric. All right, he kind of looks like me. What tricks did he do to drop 20 pounds? Steven, right? This is a guy I was talking about. He's literally doing 10-minute body weight workouts for the first 2 months of him dropping 40 pounds in 3 months. Or if you're in the military, struggling Air Force dad drops 20 pounds. Again, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because this is, at this point, what's the word I'm looking for? Just beating the dead horse, whatever that term is. But I think the way I'll wrap this up is that, if you want to drop 20 pounds over the next 90 days, which is the holidays, it's very doable. And when you see yourself be successful in hard times, that's going to give you so much more confidence for January, February, March, when it's not as hard for the next time that holidays come around. And that's really what determines whether or not you're going to be successful is if you learn how to be successful during chaos and during stress. If I'm in the military, I'm not in the military, but work with a lot of people that are. If I've got someone in the military and they say, hey, I know how to shoot, I'm going to believe that they know how to shoot because they've been trained to do so under stressful environments. But if you keep telling yourself, oh, I know how to eat healthy, oh, I know how to work out, but as soon as the chaos of the holidays or stressful times come and you fall apart, you don't know. You're essentially a doctor that has read how to do surgeries, but you don't know how to actually execute the procedure. Once you learn how to execute the procedure, that is now procedural knowledge as opposed to declarative knowledge. And so this next 3 months is probably the most important time for you to figure this out, because once you figure out how to be successful during the holidays and you break some of those limiting beliefs and you shift your mindset on what it means to bounce back after you fall off track, then you're going to have a new belief system. And honestly, probably the best thing that you could get, not even losing the 20 pounds, is just getting a new level around what is possible. It's like it'd be like flying first class. Once you fly first class, you're like, wow, I didn't even realize this existed. Like, how do I go back? Right? It's like having the best experience ever and having your mind and ceiling lifted to realize, oh wow, the cap that I had given myself was actually the basement of what is possible if I stick with it. And once you have that awareness around what is possible, that's going to drive you to go and achieve it. So wish you guys all the best. Wish you a happy holidays. I'm going to keep dropping videos. Drop any questions down below. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you in future videos. If you want to work together, link's going to be down in the description as well. Peace.